Okay, so we've heard a lot of talks about of the future of Bitcoin and a lot of small startup groups and a lot of new people coming into Bitcoin. But from my perspective, and staying to the theme of adopting Bitcoin is you have to know the history of Bitcoin to even consider adopting it, because how would you know if you're not just adopting another scam? And I think, especially now with the governments around the world being more and more friendly, it's easier to get confused and buy one of these meme coins that they just spoke about. So I want to go a little bit back in history to find out how Bitcoin was created in the first place, because people think it's just Satoshi that came out of nowhere and just created this magnificent thing, but actually, it goes back many, many years. Like they often say, we stand on the shoulders of giants, and even Satoshi did that very thing. So there's two big, one is a philosophy more, the crypto-anarchist philosophy, and then the group, the cypherpunks, that took action. So that's what this talk is going to focus on. And not only did they create Bitcoin, but they created the internet as we know it today. Without them, there would be no security. Even people watching this on YouTube is actually using the work from the cypherpunks just to view this video. So in the 1980s, it came from who was the foundation that built the foundational layers. There's three separate generations. So I think you can go to the next slide. Yeah, you went on a few now. I'm just going to continue from here then. So in the 1980s, a group of young computer scientists started grappling with with what the internet could mean for society. So you can go to the next one. They realized early on that if the technology were to continue on its own natural evolution, the only logical outcome would be a world with no privacy, a dystopia where every action, communication, and transaction could be monitored, recorded, and controlled by a centralized authority. Next. So the solution to this was an ideology concept called crypto-anarchy. This was only possible because of the work of three academics who built the foundations of the modern internet. Okay, so these are Ralph Merkle, Whitfield Diffie, and Martin Hellman. They were computer scientists, mathematicians, and cryptographers. Like I said, mostly academics. They pioneered the work of public key cryptography. So Ralph Merkle invented much of modern cryptography, including the first version of public key cryptography, hash functions, and Merkle tree roots. So all of these are extensively used in Bitcoin, but stuff like public key cryptography, things like that, you use it every single day when you browse the web. You can't literally do anything on the web these days without this. So these guys predated both crypto-anarchy and the cypherpunks, but they did share a similar spirit, as did the founders of the internet itself. And then Whitfield Diffie and Martin Hellman invented super polynomial systems, which is very, very similar to what we use in Bitcoin today. And that's the old saying, not your keys, not your coins, that comes directly from them. Okay, next slide. So over 95% of web traffic is secured by HTTPS, built on their cryptography foundations. WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram, iMessage, they're all public key cryptography. Even logging into a simple website, if it's a competent provider, uses the hash functions that Merkle invented. So without these pioneers, modern online security and privacy wouldn't even exist. So I work in the software engineering world, and if I sit down with a client, they always ask, do you encrypt the data? And the one-liner is, we encrypt the data at rest and or in transit, or both. So when the data is on the system, it's encrypted. Once you send it over the network, it's encrypted as well. And this used to be completely illegal, but we'll get to that on the next slide, please. Okay, so Timothy May, or Tim May, as he was better known, is a larger-than-life figure in this world. He inspired everybody, from Satoshi to the people that we'll look at now that created cryptocurrency, to BitTorrent, to WikiLeaks, to just about everything you can think of. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2018. He did live to see Bitcoin evolve and mature, so at least he did get to see that. The crypto-anarchists, which he founded, and he coined the term, and he wrote the manifesto. Now, there's not enough time to read the manifesto here, but the crypto-anarchy manifesto, he wrote, like I said, right when the internet started. And if you read it today, you can see that he predicted many, many of the issues we ran in today. It's aged very, very well. Next slide, please. Okay, so the term anarchy is often misunderstood as chaos or just lawlessness, but it comes from the ancient Greek term archon, which means without rulers. So rules without rulers, I think it was in Anita's presentation as well. It's a Bitcoin, a common Bitcoin phrase. It just means that, there's still rules and laws that you can apply, and if you want to use the system or protocol, you have to abide by those rules. There is just no ruler. A free market can be secured from the outside interference through cryptography. Cryptographic technologies enable privacy, autonomy, and freedom from centralized control. So yes, like I said, electronic cash was considered the holy grail by the crypto-anarchists. I don't think many of them would have even believed that we are where we are today. So we're actually a lot further ahead. So these tools guard against state overreach and protect freedoms in the digital age. These tools guard against state overreach and protect, that's different, duplicate line. So this was way more of a theoretical and philosophical argument. It was not a group that wanted to go out and build things. It was a prediction. Most of human history, we could have private conversations with each other in rooms, and we could be sure that no one is listening. But since the digital age, and the crypto-anarchists saw that more and more communication will be online, and today you speak to people that you maybe never even meet, but privacy has just gone out the window, and the crypto-anarchists made it their mission to rectify this. If you go to the next slide, please. So if we compare the crypto-anarchists with other anarchist movements, many classical anarchist movements like the anarcho-communism were influenced by Marxist and socialist theories, focusing on collective ownership. So crypto-anarchists are the exact opposite of this. They're emphasizing individual sovereignty and property rights. a peaceful opt-in movement, crypto-anarchists create technologies to incrementally replace state function, especially in areas where the state has proven inefficient or incompetent. So the example of this conference is obviously Bitcoin, where we've heard about, it's very addictive if you're able to print money, to just print more and more money. And always, I was in the beginning of the internet when Timothy May saw that if something isn't done, privacy will be completely lost, and privacy equals security on the internet. So then, in the 1990s, you again see Timothy May, send them an email, and then would be asked to be part of the mailing list, and then periodically they would send out content created by this group. It was interesting, this group only found each other because of the internet, so they found each other on the internet to improve the internet, kind of a self-fulfilling thing. They believed privacy is a fundamental right. Individuals should be able to communicate and transact without surveillance or interference. But the difference between the cypherpunks and the crypto-anarchists is, and again, Anita mentioned the cypherpunks write code. So their big thing was, let's go out, let's build the tools, let's not ask permission. This was a big thing they learned. Skype learned, even outside of the cypherpunks, Skype learned this, Airbnb, you learned this, and the AI companies currently learn this, is you go out and you build the tools, and then everybody else has to react to it. And we saw this beautifully with Bitcoin, coming from obscurity all the way to presidents debating about it, being forced to acknowledge it. So again, that bottom up, not top down. So free cryptography from government control and make it a tool for the masses. So the crypto-anarchists, like I said, were academics, mathematicians, computer science cryptographers. But the cypherpunks included those, but they were more hackers and builders, and let's actually make a change. So you'll see every generation gets more ambitious, and they do stuff, and they stand on the shoulders of giants, and they move the field forward. So I don't have that here, but that's where the PGP story that you often hear comes from, with Phil Zimmerman that just created the tool, and he was almost arrested. And then people like Adam Back printed cryptography on shirts and in textbooks and sent it to universities, so that when they wanted to, in court, ban it, you could show the paper, you could show the shirt, and say, this is freedom of speech. And that's how they actually got it to be legal. Yeah, so free and open source code was integral to the movement. All of their code was all open source, and for anybody to contribute that wanted it. Privacy creates security and safety. So this is a little bit hard because people think that privacy means you want to hide something, you want to make it secret. But like Anita pointed out, it is privacy is you selectively reveal yourself to whoever you choose. If you have an illness, you don't necessarily want to share that with everybody. But if you only communicate online, then and I send you an email, then you don't know on how many servers that email lies. They also believe that code is law. Writing and sharing open source code was a form of activism tool, not laws which shape society. So yeah, with Bitcoin, you're not relying on laws or regulations, or that the government's going to come stop you if you send it to the wrong thing. You're relying on the code that has been trusted and used throughout the years, that's proven to be safe and secure. Unfortunately, by the mid-2000s, it seems that the cypherpunks mostly failed. Even Timothy May, the co-founder of the cypherpunks, left it, mostly because there was weird domains and weird people popping up, and it started to become less and less relevant. So it kind of seemed like it was dead. Go to the next slide. So cryptography is taken for granted today, but cypherpunks and activists fought hard during the crypto wars to ensure that we can use it now. The crypto wars is a whole talk on its own, but that's, like I said, people like Adam Back printing on a T-shirt and sending it to the government, asking if they can ship this. So basically, after World War II, many of you know about the Enigma code, but because they broke the Enigma code, many say that's why they won the war. So after that, they listed encryption or cryptography as munition. And the public didn't agree with that. And the cypherpunks took it onto themselves to fight this war, together with the Electronic Frontier Foundation. And eventually, they caved, and today we have strong cryptography. But the fight is not over, because even today, from both sides of the aisle or in the US, they still attack cryptography. They still think you can build in a backdoor and keep it safe. They don't understand the mathematics behind it. They always want to cheat to find the criminals, but by doing that, they give up everybody that's innocent's privacy. And yeah, today, even freedom is freedom of speech itself. So like I mentioned earlier, freedom of speech was what was used to actually make cryptography legal for the public to use. And today, freedom of speech itself is under attack. So yeah, that's a scary place to be, but that is the current situation. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so there was a lot of cypherpunks, but mostly they're all the four main figures in front of you are the cypherpunks that worked on cryptocurrency. Now, I know a lot of the talks don't like the word cryptocurrency because of all the shitcoins that kind of muddied the water, but these guys referred to it as cryptocurrency during this time. So that's why I'm referring to as cryptocurrency. A lot of this was inspired by a guy named David Chaum, who demonstrated that cryptography could be used to build digital money, e-cash, combined with Tim May that we spoke about already, his vision of complete independence. Now, David Chaum was not a crypto-anarchist or a cypherpunk, but he was greatly, he inspired Tim May, he inspired all of these guys with these companies he built. His e-cash system was a centralized system, and eventually when his company failed, e-cash itself failed. But that's why these guys tried to combine it with Tim May's vision of complete independence. So they were kind of laying the bedrocks of Bitcoin. So Hal Finney here also unfortunately passed away. Yeah, he's famous for Satoshi sending him the first Bitcoin transaction. He had crucial discussions with Satoshi in the early days over email, and a lot of that has come out. And then he was the creator of RPOV, which is reusable proof of work, which many consider to be the first cryptocurrency. But again, it relied on a central server and specific hardware. So it was a step in the right direction, but it was not quite there yet. Then Adam Back, I think everybody knows, he runs Blockstream today, creates great hardware wallets, built a company to kind of protect the ecosystem from a young age, and still today. He created Hashcash proof of work. So proof of work was done before Adam Back, but he created a system that protected email spam. And then Hal Finney's RPOV was actually using Hashcash, which was a very important piece to the puzzle. Then Nick Szabo, he created BitGold. He didn't actually code it up. It was an idea, but it shared very many of the similarities with Bitcoin. It paved the ground. Now, Szabo was a computer scientist, but to me, one of the big things about him is he did a very deep dive on money. And a lot of us today describe how money is supposed to work. And growing up, I've always read financial books, economics books, and in all of those books that everybody recommends, you never ever hear the story of what money actually is. And Szabo actually explained what money is. So if it wasn't for him, Satoshi might have created Bitcoin, but he might not have known what good, sound money actually is. And it might have been a terrible system. But, but he is he did a lot of work. Again, you can do a whole talk about him. He also pioneered smart contracts. And a little tidbit here, initially he was excited about Ethereum, but today if you ask him about Ethereum and Solana and all this stuff, he doesn't think it's decentralized, he doesn't think it's useful. If there was anything to those systems, you would think the guy that invented the system would be excited about it, but he's not given up on it, but his interest in it has waned. And then Wei Dai, lastly, created B-Money, again, something that wasn't coded up, but it also added a lot to the groundwork of Bitcoin itself. An interesting thing about B-Money, if you actually go and read the white paper, immediately starts off saying about Tim May and crypto anarchy and how he finds it fascinating. Then lists out his vision of B-Money, and at the end he says, I hope this advances crypto anarchy. So all of these guys were inspired by the Crypto Anarchist Manifesto and later the Cypherpunks Manifesto of creating privacy and thereby security in the digital age. Okay, next slide, please. So this is all the pieces of the puzzle to Bitcoin. Last year I did a talk on the TCP IP layer right over here. It is on the Adopting Bitcoin website. I compared that to BTC and Lightning. But this is all the foundational work that was done throughout the years. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'll look at one or two here or there. But yeah, it started 1975 all the way up until today. So Satoshi didn't just come out of nowhere. Yeah, in fact, the 4 people you saw just now did a majority of the work. A lot of people used to say, oh, Satoshi can't be one person because you can't be a computer scientist and a mathematician and an economist and be an expert in all of these fields. But you didn't need to have to do that because you had those 4 individuals we just spoke about that laid the groundwork. All you had to do is actually study their work and build upon it. Okay, next slide. And then the last thing, not a computer scientist, but an economist, a big inspiration also came from the Austrian economist. They wanted to privatize and depoliticize money. So like we said, Arpov and all of the other ones was centralized servers. It was always a place to centrally fail. So Hayek won a Nobel Prize in 1974 for explaining business cycles and inflation. So what's interesting here is I don't believe we shall ever have good money again before we take it out of the hands of government. We can't take it violently out of the hands of government. All we can do is by some sly roundabout way introduce something they can't stop. Now, I don't actually think Hayek thought this would ever happen because it sounds kind of impossible. But if you go to the next slide. Now, a lot of people have spoken about the shitcoins the president is launching and not understanding the difference between Bitcoin and crypto. But I see Bitcoin as a Trojan horse, okay? The previous administration, if you're involved in the community, you'll know about the Operation Choke Point 2.0, where they tried to play dirty and block Bitcoin at all the vital areas and trying to shut down companies. But now with the 2025 administration, that is about to change. But that'll also come in with a bunch of scams and trickery. So it's important to understand that. But in my view, it is a good thing because once the Trojan horse is in, it is basically survival of the fittest. And those 4 individuals that we spoke about now made sure that the computer science is sound. And they targeted the 5, like Nick Szabo speaks about the 5 characteristics of money. And those 5 characteristics of money is what makes Bitcoin sound money. So as soon as the Trojan horse is in, it's a free and open market, and best sound money will win, and that is Bitcoin. So I am more positive about this, even though more people will lose more money on scams, thinking they're buying meme coins. They will learn their lesson the hard way, and the survival of the fittest, the best one will win. Next slide, please. Okay, so Satoshi Nakamoto, not going to do a lot about him. Everybody knows a lot about him, but nobody knows who it is. People theorize it's one of those 4 people, but it could also just be somebody that really studied them closely. So he used the technical and philosophical concepts developed by the cypherpunk mailing list and some other mailing lists. There's a few mailing lists. He incorporated proof of work into the consensus method. So this was kind of the breakthrough that he added to the pieces of the puzzle. And another big thing he did was he invented the difficulty adjustment that is automatic. It's not some manual process. It automatically happens across the entire planet at the same time, which is fascinating if you think about it. And he combined all of these elements into one masterpiece that we call Bitcoin. If you can go to the next one. So that long list, I just made it more concise. So we started with public key cryptography in the 1970s, the hash and the Merkle trees from Ralph Merkle, the Byzantine consensus. So this is basically, if you have a worldwide distributed network, how do you form long-term consensus, especially if some of those nodes are malicious? It's a very hard problem. Then in the 1990s, the probabilistic Byzantine consensus. Then we got the proof of work, Hashcash and ARPOV from Adam Back and Hal Finney. And then we got this idea of decentralization of money that again came from the Austrian economists. And then B-Money and BitGold was right before the cypherpunks kind of died. And then, so we said the cypherpunks died in about the late 2000s. And then after the 2008 crash and all the bailouts, which causes inequality, all the money going up to the rich. Satoshi said enough is enough. Whether he's a group of those people or a new person, he figured out the Byzantine consensus problem using proof of work. And then he put in the last piece of the puzzle, and that is Bitcoin today. If you can click one more time. So, you have these three generations that required this. The academics that figured out the cryptography fundamentals. Then you have the cypherpunks that just wanted to write code, change the world, introduce these tools. The May, huge figure, Adam Back, Wei Dai, Nick Szabo, Hal Finney. And then in 2008, in my opinion, it was a new generation that came in because the old generation kind of gave up on it for a while. Combined all the ideas, put it together, and what's it now, 10, 15 years later, and Bitcoin is still every 10 minutes new block. One more slide. Okay. Now, the last slide was just the Nakamoto Institute. It's a website that has a lot of this stuff on. The Crypto Anarchy Manifesto is very interesting to read. Seeing it was in the late 80s, and if you look at the world today, they predicted so much of it. Privacy, unfortunately, is not in a good space. I think most of the cypherpunks and crypto anarchists think we lost that war. Rules like know your customer and AML forces you to give all of your personal data to some third-party company that can't protect it, because to protect data from world-class hackers is very, very expensive. So right now we're being forced to give our information to every second little company, and then it inevitably leaks out. So the privacy war, unfortunately, is not going well. But the cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, I think was a big victory. And I think Timothy May himself said that that was the Holy Grail, and at least he lived long enough to see that realize. Thank you.